The Building Brands Marketing Podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of industry leaders who have successfully built a brand. Join me, Robert Breuer, President of Building Brands Marketing, and an entrepreneur who's successfully scaled multiple brands as we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights that have shaped the success of industry leaders and provide you with the resources you need to do the same. Building Brands Marketing is a full-service marketing agency specializing in crafting customized marketing strategies for service-based businesses with a creative powerhouse to drive real results. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. Okay, welcome to the Building Brands Podcast and the Legal Leaders Series. Super excited today to welcome a special guest on the show. Today on the Building Brands Podcast, we're welcoming Rashelle Fetty, owner and practicing counsel with the Fetty Firm. Welcome, Rashelle.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Excited to chat with you today. I know you've put in a lot of work building your firm, the Fetty Firm, and so we're excited to learn more and share some of that with our listeners. So, building a law firm from day one. Oh, that's quite an obstacle. Many attorneys, they work under, another law firm before branching out, but you started your practice right away. Is that correct?
Yes.
Awesome. So tell us, what were the largest challenges of establishing your firm early on, and what advice would you give to others considering the same path?
Really, I would say that the biggest challenge was really learning how to practice law. Getting clients was surprisingly not the hard part, which I think that's what most people expect to be the hard part. But when you come out of law school, you don't know how to practice law even a little bit. So it was very much feet in the fire. And learning as you go. That
makes a lot of sense. Yeah, trial by fire.
Absolutely.
Many business owners deal with that. Sometimes you just have to jump in the trenches and, trial and error can be our best friend in many cases.
Yeah, I mean, I think you learn the fastest that way. It's sink or swim, right? And so if you don't figure it out, then go work for somebody else. Or if you figure out that you don't like it, there's a lot of lawyers that prefer to be attorney only. When you are running your own firm, you're attorney, paralegal, marketing, bookkeeping, office management, you're everybody. You wear a lot of different hats. And that's definitely not for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, that actually is a really good point about some of the challenges of growth and scaling. I know you've built a successful solo practice and, you've been comfortable with the growth of where your practice is at a decade down the road or so. Can you walk us through the thought process behind your decision to sort of stabilize your growth at this point and the struggles of maintaining high service standards while managing workload with building your own firm?
Absolutely. So at the moment, I am one attorney myself and one support staff, and I have been bigger. And then, of course, I've been a little bit smaller just myself. So it is a difficult decision to make when you have a lot of work yourself and it's probably time to bring someone else on. It can be very scary, especially the first time you're going to hire someone. Oh my gosh, I'm responsible for someone else and their income and their mortgage payment, not just your own. And so that can be very nerve-wracking. But I think really a bigger mistake that attorneys make is they wait too long to hire. When you bring on the other person, you do more of the work and they're able to bill. And so your collections increase almost immediately. So people definitely wait too long. But I have also been bigger. I've had more attorneys and a lot more support staff. I think the most I had at one time was probably 4 support staff and 2 other attorneys. And that I found that I didn't like. There's a concept that as you get bigger, you're going to make more money. And while that's true in some ways, from a gross revenue standpoint, that might be true. It should be true, but it's definitely not guaranteed. But then with the net, that's not always the outcome. To have with more people billing, your personal net does not always increase. And even if it does, the amount of stress that comes with it might not be worth it. That was my feeling on it, is that having a lot of staff and having a lot of cases, ultimately as the owner, you're responsible for the work product that comes out, and to be able to ensure that what's got your name on it is what you want it to be. It gets a lot harder when there's more people working under your name and your brand. So, yes, I made more money those years when I had more staff, but I found that it wasn't worth it to me personally. The extra stress by no means was worth it.
Yeah, those are great points, Rashelle. It's a common misconception that, hey, just because you're growing in terms of company size, that as a principal owner, you're making more profit. Where, I've been in that with other businesses myself, where, we might have had twice the amount of employees and either made the same or maybe even less profit in some instances. And it also can start to distract you from your original passion that that business for. When you get to that size, you start to wear the HR hat and, all the other hats that may not be the reasons you started that business. And you start to question it some days. Hey, is this really the best use of my skill set? And many times it's not it's not your primary skill set or the main thing you entered the business for. When you started to scale back a little bit from a company size standpoint, not necessarily from an income standpoint, did you find yourself rejuvenating your passion a little bit for what you do, because you were like, hey, now I have more time to do what I love to do every day, and I'm not as caught up in some of these operational back office components that you might have used to have been spending more time in?
I would say a little bit. I think I got more fulfillment out of what I was doing. And I still do a lot of back office stuff, but I don't hate the back office stuff by any means. I actually kind of enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And so I'm fortunate that way. But definitely, I increased my satisfaction with the legal work because I was able to do it in the way I wanted to. And we weren't chickens with our heads cut off all day, every day. It wasn't always behind the eight ball. So I was able to have less stress and take a little more time doing the stuff that I like to do. I like to do it all, really, but it was definitely the practice was much more enjoyable when the volume wasn't so high and I was able to give more attention to individual cases and tasks.
That makes sense. So let's pivot the conversation a little bit here. One of the things I found really interesting in talking with you and researching the Fetty Firm was that a significant portion of your client base comes from legal insurance programs that you're involved with. Can you explain a little bit of how these programs work and how they contributed to your client acquisition?
Absolutely. So a lot of big companies offer legal insurance as, a perk of employment. So it's just kind of like health insurance. They have a little deduction on their paychecks and it goes to a legal insurance company. So for the attorney that maybe is interested in participating, you sign up with the insurance company as a participating attorney and they send you the referrals. So you don't have any out-of-pocket acquisition cost. You don't have to think about it. They just come in, they email and they call and there you go. Now, in exchange for that, some of the companies ask you to give their clients a discount off of an hourly rate. Sometimes the company will pay you directly on a set fee schedule. There's a lot of different ways that they go about that, but it's a pretty steady flow of clients that you didn't have to pay Google to go get. And so that's a great thing about it. There's zero acquisition cost. And another thing that I think is really nice about it is that because you're such a direct referral, the clients are ready to hire you right then. You get a lot less of the tire kicking shopping consultations. So the higher rate is very, very high.
Very cool. That's neat. And it seems like it's worked really well for you. So segue into another section of your practice. I know that you're expanding into the mediation kind of space. So you've recently built up a mediation practice and now it seems to be a significant part of your practice. What led you to pursue mediation, and how does it complement the work that you do in family law?
Gosh, that's kind of a hard question. What led me to pursue it? I'm not really sure the answer to that. I should know. I'm not sure. But what I like about it is it's very low stress to me. I really enjoy getting to see kind of the 30,000 foot view of the case, getting to see both sides of it at once and helping people come to the resolution. Another really great thing for me personally about it is that people usually are not mad at the mediator. And so that's very nice to have people say, oh my gosh, thank you so much at the end of the day, instead of what they say to their attorneys. So that's fun. And it's just kind of it's a neat mental exercise, basically, to get the facts of a case right then and there, figure out what the most logical, basically, solution is, and get everybody else on board. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, very cool. So, us at Building Brands Marketing, we work with a lot of different business owners, executives in the SMB space, and really the number one name of the game for the businesses we work with is branding. Hey, how can they establish a lasting brand? How can they not only acquire new clients, but also retain those clients? Yeah, I know in talking with you, I really loved, some of the insights you discussed. Many entrepreneurs are hesitant really to start their business. They don't want to start too soon. It's the risky move. And I know you mentioned launching early could be a major advantage. Can you elaborate on why that is and your belief on kind of start sooner than later?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was definitely brash. I got offers to work in other places, and the amount that they offered, I thought I could make that on my own. And so I just went for it. And one of the benefits of that is that I was fresh out of school and I was used to living in a not great neighborhood and eating peanut butter, and I had a paid off car. And so my personal overhead was incredibly low. And I also didn't have a spouse or kids. And so my time was unlimited. And so for those first few years, I kept living really, really cheap, like I was in college. And I worked so many hours, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, easily for a couple of years. And I was able to do that because I went right out and did it. Definitely when you get more established and used to having a certain income, or you have a family and, other obligations, you have a mortgage and car payments and all those things, that can certainly make it more difficult to go backwards and have a lower income or no income. And it can make it a lot more scary. There's other people that depend on you. You've invested in this home. You don't want to lose it when you're renting a crappy duplex on the wrong side of town. It's like, well, whatever. If I pay late, he'll get over it.
Yeah, definitely. If you could do it all over again, Rashelle, is there anything that you would do different?
Big picture, no. I mean, I do like family law. I maybe would do a different area of law, but just big picture of hanging the shingle and going for it, no, definitely not.
Absolutely. Well, this has been a pleasure. Is there any final advice that you would give an entrepreneur either contemplating on taking the next step to really scale, to a larger capacity, or somebody looking to take the step to become the entrepreneur that's in a management position? Any piece of advice you would give them?
For the person that thinks they want to go out on their own, grip it and rip it. Just do it. And especially if you're already in a management position and you've got experience, give it a try and give it your whole heart. Go ahead and set a predetermined amount of time, a year, 2 years. And if it doesn't work, then you can always go back, because that's a easily explainable gap on your resume, right? So just go for it. And the worst thing that happens is you don't like it. And then and you never have that question of what if, or you fail and you're like, oh, gee, okay, well, I'm not good at this. And again, you don't have the question, you don't have the what if in your mind. So take that off your plate, and either it works or it doesn't, but either way, you have resolved that issue and you can always go back, to, a regular job. Or what was the other question?
Well, the person that already is an entrepreneur and they're looking to kind of scale to the next step. Let's say they're looking to double their company size, add new employees this year. Is there any piece of advice you would give them?
That one, I would say, I would give that a little caution, honestly. I mean, it definitely depends what kind of business you're in and what that looks like, how much extra work that's going to be for you, how much extra profit is realistic. And if those things weigh out in a way that is acceptable to you, then okay, go for it. Because again, you can always go backwards, depending on what kind of a business it is. If you don't like having the second location or whatever it is, then you can close it down and go backwards. Definitely bigger is not always better. And there's a law of diminishing returns. So just because you increase your gross from 500,000 to $1 million, that's a cool benchmark to hit for sure. But that doesn't mean that you're going to double your personal income or your enjoyment of the business.
Absolutely. Rashelle, this has been good information. It's a good other side of the coin to take a look at. So I really appreciate your insight. It's been a pleasure having you on the Building Brands podcast, Rashelle. If you enjoyed this content today, like, comment, and share the Building Brands podcast on all major streaming platforms. Rashelle, best of luck to the future for the Fetty Law Firm. I look forward to continuing to follow your success. And thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. I had a great time. Thanks for having me.